Holy moly, the iPad just slaughtered the Surface Pro. Which tablet is the laptop replacement king of 2022 and going into next year? Well, I'm gonna answer that in this video by literally comparing everything between these two, including the displays, the designs, the performance, the benchmarks, the usability with the keyboards, Surface pens, everything in this video to see which one is the laptop king, so let's get started. Now, the previous Surface Pro X was basically unusable, so let's see how this new one compares. Now, before we actually get into comparing the displays and everything else, I do want to get into the design differences. Now, one thing you can see is this huge camera bump on the iPad Pro. That's because it has the regular wide camera and the ultra wide, as well as flash, LiDAR, the microphone. So a lot going on there compared to the Surface, which literally just has the camera and a microphone hole. And one thing I can instantly notice is the thickness of the Surface Pro 9 because it is just so much thicker than the super sleek iPad. And part of the reason for that is because the Surface actually comes with a built-in kickstand right into the actual chassis, which is fully adjustable, so that's pretty nice. And the iPad doesn't have that. It relies on the Magic Keyboard instead. And underneath the kickstand, you'll actually find this little secret door, which is used to upgrade your storage. Yes, you can open this up and upgrade the SSD up to 1 terabytes for an insanely good price, whereas you literally cannot do that with the iPad Pro, which is unfortunate, which means you're gonna be spending more money. And this year, another difference is that the Surface Pro 9 comes with 5G support built in, and you can actually see the little SIM card slot right here. And that actually changes the price comparison situation because this M2 iPad Pro comes in at $1,100, while the Surface Pro 9 comes in at $1,300. However, it has 5G support included. So if you were gonna match that up and get 5G on the iPad, it would be the exact same $1,300 with both sitting at 128 gigs of storage and 8 gigs of RAM, so it's a perfect comparison. Now, one thing you might also notice is that the iPad is a lot wider like this because it has a different display aspect ratio, which I'll get into. So you can see that in terms of the footprint, the Surface is a little bit thinner on this side. And then finally, the last difference I want to show you guys is the smart connector, which is right here on the iPad Pro, while the Surface chooses to put it kind of on the side here, which you connect the keyboard case to. Now, the banger feature of the Surface is that it comes with 2 Thunderbolt ports. Yes, 2 of them compared to just 1 on the iPad Pro. Now, you might think one of those on the Surface is used for charging, but no, because Microsoft has their own proprietary charging connector. Now, that right there is a huge downside for the iPad Pro, but there is a little bit of a saving grace, and that comes with the Magic Keyboard. And I really love this thing because it connects magnetically to the iPad just like that with the smart connector. But in terms of that USB-C port, it actually comes with a little USB-C port in the hinge of the keyboard itself that pass-through charges the iPad Pro, leaving your regular Thunderbolt port open and free. And then of course the Surface Pro 9 has its own solution, which is just the bottom keyboard section, and that's because it has the flap in the back of the tablet itself. So boom, it magnetically connects to the side using its own connector, and you can adjust the angle. Actually, even more so than you can with the Magic Keyboard, which is actually quite nice, especially if you're trying to use the pen. And of course, you also have the Apple Pencil 2, which magnetically connects and charges right there at the top of the iPad Pro. And speaking of the prices for these full setups with the pens and the keyboards, Apple's solution is very expensive. $480 retail, while on the Surface side, $280, so $200 less expensive for the Microsoft solution. However, if you choose to not go with 5G on the iPad Pro, both of these setups will be exactly the same price, $1,580. So this is a perfect comparison. Now, I've got to admit that I like the Microsoft solution better because the Surface Pen 2 actually does magnetically connect and charge right there. But if you close the flap it fully protects it and keeps it enclosed so you don't lose it, while with the iPad Pro, it's there sitting freely and you can easily lose the Magic Pencil 2. Now, comparing the keyboards and the trackpads, first of all, I want to say that I like how the Magic Keyboard swipes on this trackpad. It feels a lot more responsive and fluid. And on top of that, I really dislike the click of the Surface trackpad because it's using a diving board design, so at the top, it doesn't click as evenly. It's actually pretty hard to click, whereas at the bottom, it's super easy. Now, the Magic Keyboard actually uses a really nice system where you can click anywhere on the trackpad, and it's giving you exactly the same click and feedback. It's not hard at the top, so I love this a lot better. Definitely a better trackpad on the Magic Keyboard. Now, in terms of the actual keys and how clicky they feel, it seems like the Surface keyboard is a little bit mushy, like kind of like you're not getting as good of a click compared to the iPad, where you're getting a nice click, you're getting a lot of feedback, a lot of pushback and bounce. It doesn't really feel mushy, and I really like that about it. But one thing that is killer on the Surface is that you get the top row of function keys, including the escape, the brightness, media keys, and a bunch of extra keys, which is a big deal to me. I really love that, and it's so disappointing that we don't get that on the Magic Keyboard case. And the main reason for that is because the Magic Keyboard uses this cool floating iPad design where the iPad is actually higher and it floats and you have this adjustable angle, which is really cool. But because of that, they didn't add the function keys. Otherwise, people would have to reach under the iPad and probably bump into it a bunch of times. So that's why we don't have it. Now, the really nice thing about the Magic Keyboard for the iPad Pro is that it makes logging in using Face ID a lot more convenient, because you can simply just hit the spacebar twice to get to your home screen. However, the Surface also has Windows Hello with its own infrared camera system, so you literally just hit the spacebar one time and it logs you in. So it's actually better than the Face ID system. Now, in terms of the webcam situation, the nice thing about the Microsoft Surface Pro 9 is that you have the webcam right there in the center, landscape, just like the new iPad 10 has. But unfortunately, the brand new M2 iPad Pro does not have that, so I'm looking at myself on the screen and it looks really weird, like I'm looking away. I actually have to look to the edge where the camera is on the side to make it look kind of normal. So in terms of video, I'd say that the actual quality is better on the iPad. The location of the webcam is much better on the Surface, and you guys let me know which one has the better microphone quality down below. And now with that out of the way, let's get right into the speaker quality comparison. Alright, wow guys, I'm actually surprised by the speaker quality of the Surface because it was better than I expected. However, the iPad destroyed it in basically every single way. First of all, the bass is better, it's louder, it's deeper. The mids are louder, they're more clear. The vocals more clear. The highs are more sharp. So across the board, better than the Surface, and I can feel that the sound on the iPad Pro kind of wraps around like a wider soundstage, whereas with the Microsoft Surface, it kind of comes at you directly and you don't get that same feeling, so it goes to the iPad Pro 100%. And now let's move on to comparing the displays. Now, the Surface technically has a 13-inch display compared to 12.9 on the iPad Pro. However, you actually get more surface area on the iPad because of the aspect ratio difference, whereas the Surface has a more widescreen aspect ratio, and you actually get higher resolution on the iPad Pro as well, even though it's a 12.9 instead of a 13. Now on top of that, one thing I really like about the iPad Pro's display is the rounded corners all the way around, which looks really nice compared to the more traditional flat and squared edge corners on the Surface. And on top of that, the Surface has uneven bezels, so you have the huge bezel on the top and bottom and slim bezels on the side, which of course doesn't look as good. And then in terms of refresh rate, both of them can go up to 120 Hertz, so they're gonna be buttery smooth, and both of them are actually adaptive as well, which on the Surface you can use the dynamic mode, which switches from 60 Hertz up to 120 back and forth, but the iPad Pro actually has the win here because it can go down to 24 Hertz automatically when you're watching videos that are filmed at 24 FPS, which can help save you battery life. And now in terms of the actual display quality, the difference is massive. The iPad Pro has a much better display, and that's because the Surface Pro 9 only has sRGB in terms of the color profile, not even P3 wide color gamut, and the color space is also SDR, which is standard dynamic range, compared to the iPad Pro, which has the mini LEDs, so it supports really good HDR at up to 1600 nits of brightness. So as you can see in this video comparison, the iPad Pro looks just so much better, so much brighter, the colors pop a lot more, it's better in every way. And not only that, but the standard brightness is up to 600 nits when you're just using the iPad normally, compared to only 450 on the Surface Pro 9, so it wins there as well. And now with all that display stuff out of the way, we can clearly see that so far the iPad Pro is winning, but now let's get into the actual performance and benchmark comparisons. And in this testing, I'm gonna take the tablets off of their keyboards and put them flat on the table, so it's gonna be easier to see all the results. Now the first thing I'm gonna do is test out the storage speed. Of course, since the iPad doesn't have AJA, we're gonna use different apps, AJA and Jazz Disk. And there you go, we have our numbers. It looks like the Surface has 1766 for read compared to 1575, so it is faster there, but in terms of write speed, it has 651 compared to 955, so the iPad actually has the faster writing speed, so it's a little bit of a draw right here. And now getting into the actual performance, the iPad Pro of course has the M2 chip, which has a clock speed of up to 3.49 gigahertz compared to the new SQ3 on the Microsoft Surface that only goes up to 3.0, at least that's the base frequency because it's not showing the maximum. Now that is an ARM-based chip, and this is of course running Windows on ARM, so let's see the differences we have here. And now while this is running, I do want to mention that both of them have 8 gigs of RAM, and you can get 16 on both, but with the iPad Pro, you are forced to go with at least 1 terabyte of storage to get 16 gigs of RAM, while on the Surface, you can just upgrade the RAM itself regardless of the storage, so that's nice to have the option. Holy moly, the iPad just slaughtered the Surface Pro. Look at that, the single core performance, 80% faster on the iPad Pro, and the multi-core, 50% faster. Is this the new SQ3? Yes, it is. Apple has such a lead, I cannot believe it. You know what, it might actually be because it was unplugged, so I'm gonna plug it into power. Maybe that's gonna allow it to be faster? I don't know, let's test it again. And it looks like no, we just ran it again and we have basically the same score as before, plugged and unplugged. So we're just gonna go ahead and unplug it and make it fair like that. Now, if you're wondering how that's actually gonna impact your everyday use of these tablets, well, it's gonna impact web browsing performance. So let's run the speedometer to web browsing benchmark. Wow, there is no way the difference is this big. 380 runs per minute compared to 103. That's almost 4 times faster for the iPad Pro in terms of overall snappiness for using your common apps that use single core performance and browsing the web as well. I mean, this difference by itself for everyday use, this could be a deal breaker. But now let's actually go and test the graphics performance of these ARM-based chips. I have the 3D Mark Wildlife Extreme Unlimited test on both of these, so let's go ahead and run them. Guys, this is crazy. The iPad Pro is already done with the test, and this one just finally finished loading it up, and it's not even started. This is really weird. And bam, it is finished, and would you look at that, the M2 chip in the iPad Pro is 2.33 times faster in terms of the score, compared to the new SQ3. And if we compare the actual FPS, 17.6 FPS compared to 41.2, that is a lot more smooth. But don't worry guys, I'm not gonna leave you with just benchmarks because we have Lightroom open right here with some raw photos, identically the same ones on each one. So let's test the actual responsiveness. Let's start with a zooming kind of scenario where we're just gonna zoom in and out of a couple of places. You can see, nice and smooth zoom, just like that. And then let's test it on the surface and whoa, it's like glitchy, dropping frames like crazy. Nowhere near as smooth. Wow, that's really distracting. Okay, well now let's switch to another photo. Let's see. Oh, the iPhone. Oh, wow, that is so slow. Did you see how long it took to load that up? The iPad was basically instant. Let's try it again. Wow, yeah, that took a long time. So the iPad is more responsive, switching as well. And now the final photo editing test is to export these 50 raw 42 megapixel images, and I've set the settings to the same, JPEG, small dimensions, 80% image quality. So let's go ahead and export. What in the world? The iPad is halfway done and I still don't even see the bar on the surface. It hasn't even moved. And bam, there you go, the iPad has finished. And the bar has barely moved on the surface. Oh my goodness, guys, I cannot believe it took that long. The iPad Pro finished in 53 seconds. Go ahead and guess how long it took the Surface Pro 9 with the brand new SQ3 chip. 6 minutes and 10 seconds. Yes, over 6 times longer than the iPad Pro. I cannot believe that. The benchmarks lied. It was not that big of a difference in the benchmarks. Real world was much worse. Over 6 times longer. This is an embarrassment. SQ3, are you kidding me, Microsoft? All right, I've got to end this comparison there. That is way too embarrassing. I would not recommend this to anybody. $1,300 for this kind of performance? I mean, that's a premium price, and you're thinking you're getting a pro, fast, and responsive device, but no, this is incredibly slow and glitchy. Do not buy this, guys. Between these two, it's the iPad Pro all day for many different reasons. The display quality, the speaker quality, the snappiness to performance, web browsing, graphics, everything. Only a couple of things were just a little bit better on the Surface. I mean, this is no compete. The iPad Pro wins. There you guys go. That's what I think about this comparison. So if you disagree, let me know down in the comment section below. But if you enjoy this video, click the circle above to subscribe for more videos like this one and check out one of those two right over there. Thanks for watching and we'll see you in the next video.